Theranos, the promise, the power, and the fraud. Theranos promised to revolutionize healthcare. One drop of blood, hundreds of tests, faster results, lower cost, a medical breakthrough. Investors believed it. The media celebrated it. Patients trusted it. But the technology did not work. In 2018, Theranos dissolved. Its founder was later convicted of fraud. Billions of dollars in valuation vanished. How did one of Silicon Valley's most celebrated startups collapse so completely? To understand the fall, we need to understand the promise. Part 1. The Vision. Theranos was founded in 2003 by Elizabeth Holmes, a Stanford dropout with a bold idea. Traditional blood testing requires vials of blood drawn from a vein. Tests are processed in centralized laboratories. Results can take time. Costs can be significant. Holmes claimed she could change that. Her company said it had developed proprietary machines that could run hundreds of blood tests from a single finger prick. A tiny sample. A small device. Rapid results. Vision was compelling. If successful, it would transform healthcare accessibility. Patients could test more frequently. Doctors could detect disease earlier. Costs could fall dramatically. Investors were captivated. High-profile figures joined the board of directors. Major venture capital firms invested hundreds of millions of dollars. Theranos reached a private valuation of around $9 billion at its peak. Holmes herself was celebrated as a visionary entrepreneur. She was compared to iconic technology founders. Her image appeared on magazine covers. She spoke confidently about innovation and disruption. The narrative was powerful. But narratives are not evidence. Part 2. The secrecy. From the beginning, Theranos operated with extreme secrecy. Employees were divided into teams that rarely communicated across departments. Access to information was tightly restricted. Non-disclosure agreements were aggressively enforced. Secrecy can protect intellectual property, but it can also prevent scrutiny. Former employees later described an environment where questioning the technology was discouraged. Concerns were often dismissed. Doubts were reframed as lack of belief in the mission. The company claimed its proprietary devices could run a full range of diagnostic tests accurately and reliably. But internally, there were problems. Some employees observed inconsistent results. Some machines failed to perform as advertised. Certain demonstrations were tightly controlled. Still, the company moved forward with expansion. Part 3. The partnerships. Theranos entered partnerships with major retail pharmacy chains. Testing centers were installed in stores. Patients began using the service. The marketing emphasized convenience and innovation. Finger prick tests were presented as equivalent to traditional lab draws. But behind the scenes, many tests were not being processed on Theranos devices. Instead, conventional laboratory equipment was often used. In some cases, small blood samples from finger pricks were diluted to run on machines that were not designed for such samples. Dilution can affect accuracy. Accuracy matters in healthcare. Inaccurate blood tests are not simply accounting errors. They can lead to misdiagnosis. They can lead to unnecessary treatment. They can create false reassurance. The gap between the public claims and internal reality widened. Part 4. The investigation. In 2015, investigative reporting began exposing serious concerns. Journalists spoke with former employees. They examined internal documents. They questioned whether the technology actually worked as advertised. The reporting revealed that Theranos devices could not reliably perform the wide range of tests the company claimed. Regulators began examining the company more closely. Federal inspections found significant deficiencies in laboratory practices. Theranos was cited for multiple violations. Certain testing operations were suspended. Partnerships collapsed. Retail agreements were terminated. The company's valuation began to unravel. Investors who once celebrated the vision began reassessing the risk. Confidence deteriorated rapidly. Part 5. The collapse. By 2016, Theranos was struggling to survive. The company voided thousands of blood test results. Layoffs followed. Leadership changes occurred. The narrative of revolutionary healthcare innovation shifted into one of corporate deception. In 2018, federal prosecutors charged Elizabeth Holmes and other executives with fraud. The core allegation was clear. Theranos had misled investors about the capabilities of its technology. It had overstated performance. It had misrepresented financial projections. The company dissolved later that year. Years later, Holmes was convicted on multiple counts related to defrauding investors. The fall was complete. Part 6. The psychology. Theranos was not just a business failure. It was a psychological case study. Why did so many intelligent investors believe the story? Part of the answer lies in narrative power. The idea of democratizing healthcare was emotionally compelling. A young founder challenging an established industry fit a familiar Silicon Valley archetype. Disruption is celebrated. Skepticism is sometimes seen as resistance to innovation. Board members included respected former statesmen and leaders. Their presence created additional credibility. Investors often rely on social proof. If influential figures support a company, others may assume due diligence has been performed. But in Theranos' case, the board lacked deep medical diagnostics expertise. Another factor was information asymmetry. Private companies are not required to disclose as much as public corporations. Investors relied heavily on internal presentations and management statements. When transparency is limited, trust becomes central, and trust can be misplaced. The lessons. Theranos offers several important lessons. First, vision is not validation. A compelling mission does not replace empirical evidence. In healthcare especially, claims must be verified rigorously. Second, secrecy can obstruct accountability. While intellectual property protection is legitimate, extreme opacity can prevent meaningful oversight. Third, expertise matters. Boards and investors must include individuals capable of technically evaluating claims. Charisma and confidence are not substitutes for domain knowledge. Fourth, incentives influence disclosure. Startup culture often rewards rapid growth and high valuations. Pressure to meet expectations can distort decision-making. Fifth, due diligence is essential. Investors must independently verify technological claims. Patients and partners must rely on regulatory oversight. Theranos demonstrates how powerful stories can overshadow technical reality. Part 8. The broader impact. The collapse of Theranos reshaped conversations around startup governance and investor responsibility. It highlighted weaknesses in oversight within private markets. It raised questions about the balance between innovation and regulation. In healthcare, the consequences are particularly serious. Medical diagnostics affect real lives. Inaccurate results can lead to harm. Regulatory agencies increased scrutiny. Investors became more cautious regarding medical technology claims. Entrepreneurs faced greater demands for proof. The case also influenced public perception of startup culture. The idea of moving fast and breaking things may apply to software. It does not apply safely to blood testing. Conclusion: Theranos promised a revolution. It attracted billions in valuation. It inspired belief. It generated headlines and admiration. But the underlying technology did not match the promise. Confidence sustained the illusion for years. When scrutiny intensified, the gap between narrative and reality became undeniable. Theranos did not fail because ambition is wrong. It failed because verification was insufficient. Transparency was limited, and trust was extended without adequate proof. In the end, the lesson is clear. In technology, claims must be tested. In healthcare, accuracy is non-negotiable. And in investing, narrative must always be balanced by evidence. Theranos was once valued at billions. Today, it is remembered as a cautionary tale, a reminder that vision without validation can lead to collapse.